So thank you for joining us today. And as Natasha said, I'm going to talk about how to attract diverse talent through intelligent automation. And last time I did one of these, not changing screens, although I am changing screens. Do feel free, to send me messages either by through LinkedIn or send me email afterwards. But last time I spoke, Natasha told me that basically lots of people didn't really understand what we did. So I don't want to bore you too much, but just very quickly, we provide a comprehensive recruitment platform, and we're by far the largest actually in the UK, although we're not that well known. I did a little sum on calculation a few weeks ago. Apparently, the 120 of us, we have 700 years of knowledge of talent acquisition technology. And in terms of, including it very, very basically, we provide an applicant tracking system, a CRM solution, an events recruitment solution, and obviously all the kind of reporting and insights around that. What else can I tell you about us? So we would be nothing without our incredible clients who give us the opportunity to make all our dreams and fantasies about how technology can support them the reality. We're very lucky to have some of the most talented private sector organizations like the Amazons and the Goldmans and the Morgan Stanleys of this world, the professionals like the Korn Ferries, but also incredibly lucky, to have a lot of public sector organizations, like we do almost all the civil service, a lot of NHS increasingly, people like the Metropolitan Police use us. So kind of a wide range of organizations on which I'm going to be drawing on to kind of talk to you a little bit about what they're doing in order to attract great and diverse talent through intelligent automation. Just before I sort of launch into that in a bit more detail, I'll just sort of tell you a bit about our philosophy. So we absolutely believe in allowing you to recruit your way. So a little bit earlier, we had someone talking about the challenges of recruiting, for example, in the NHS. The NHS processes and ways of working, very specific to the NHS. And we absolutely think that we should allow you to configure our platform to meet your ways of working, because if you're not in the platform, how could we possibly be helping you? And if it's not configured to your ways of working, you won't be in it. So we kind of think that's kind of absolutely critical. And I was at a IHR event just a month ago, and one of our clients, Bank of America, was very kindly talking. And I was amazed to hear her say, even after she's been working with us for more than a decade, and she was talking about all the things they'd recently added into the platform that weren't there before. And it's kind of, I guess, a slow war of attrition of adding in. She was talking about adding in kinds of spreadsheets and trackers that they had outside the platform. She was talking about adding in some of more onboarding activities and so on and so forth. And if you're not doing them in the platform, how can we help? And apart from that, we absolutely believe in being data-driven to automate so we can reduce your workload and your time to hire and enhance diversity. And diversity is absolutely at the core of what we do. Natasha mentioned that I think about 5 years ago, we were called WCN, and we got together as a group and said, we're not sure that really reflects who we are anymore. And we renamed ourselves Oleeo. And now Oleeo means a diverse set of things, which when put together makes something beautiful. So I think you can certainly probably not say that about me, but my colleagues, if you saw them, I'm sure you'd feel that way. So we felt so passionately about the importance of diversity that we changed our name and made it kind of absolutely central to what we do. Just very quickly, I think in some ways these next three slides are just kind of scene setters about the world today. But I think Natasha's poll did it so much better because it was live, and the scarcity of talent is kind of totally confusing to me. But just the world is a very bizarre world at the moment, incredibly challenging place, economically, and yet we still have this incredible scarcity of talent. It is wonderful to see that diversity has moved up everybody's agenda. It's no longer just an option or something that's nice to do or the right thing to do, but job seekers see it as absolutely core, that the place they want to work is a diverse place. The majority feel it's important, and I think according to this slide, 32% won't apply. And I know from my own company, we work really, really hard in making sure that we're an inclusive environment. And even the smallest misstep really upsets people, and I myself get very upset when I hear that people are themselves getting upset and don't feel included. So it's kind of just it's so important to our lives these days. And then the final thing, which again is also absolutely at the core of what Oleeo do, is we can see more and more in our lives that people are embedding intelligence in one way or another into technology. And the wonderful analogy I like to use is the Google Maps one, which we all just kind of turn on and get it to help us get from A to B. And it's turned map reading into a pleasure. It's really transformed the experience. It's made it much easier. It's made it much less effort. You don't have to flick through the pages and all those sorts of things and find the routes. And it's brought a lot more information into the thing in terms of traffic when you're driving and speed cameras and things like that. And I like the way that it sort of recommends what I should do, but doesn't sort of take over what I do. And again, that's very much kind of what we're about. We want to augment our clients and your intelligence, but we know that you have really good local knowledge and you make the best decisions ultimately, but we're going to help and prod you and give you some recommendations, but you can overrule them. And our goal is really to make you the best recruiters you could possibly be. So there we are, there's a bit of background. And then I just got a few slides really talking about some of the actions that our clients are taking. And some of the things, I guess, thus that you could take in order to attract and hire, great diverse talent. And I think we've just got a quick poll here on the first one. And I don't know whether how this comes up, but do you audit your vacancy descriptions to make sure they're inclusive? So I think you've got a minute or so just to click that. I'm not sure I'm allowed to do that. Am I? Am I allowed to click it? No,
I think it's automatically set so that you're not allowed to, Charles. But
that's fine.
I'll give it just 30 seconds or so. It shouldn't take too long to complete this one. Okay. You should be able to see the results there.
Yeah, so 71%, which I have to say, very pleased to see more and more people are doing it. For those who aren't doing it yet, do I close it down or is it just closed? I do, okay. These are one of the things you can easily do. So this is a kind of really good, what's the word? Illustration of our philosophy. We want to support all our clients to be able to recruit inclusively, but we don't want to add any work, really. We want to make their lives really, really simple, and we want to sort of embed this intelligence in the sort of day-to-day tasks they do. So we have this task called intelligent writing, which I'm guessing, I mean, audit sounds awfully hard work, doesn't it? I'm going to audit my job descriptions. Well, all that happens here is as you're writing a job description, it identifies words that might be putting off female or male candidates and just kind of recommends alternatives you could use. So it really doesn't add to your workload, and it really makes a big difference in terms of making sure when people read your job descriptions, they are engaged and attracted to them. So again, it's what we're all about, simple things that really don't add to your work, but improve the end result. And of course, as I said, if you don't like the suggestions it's making, you don't have to agree them and put them in. So ultimately, you're in control. Next, we heartily recommend to our clients, and many of our clients use it, what we call intelligent engagement. And that is a way of automating or kind of creating bulk communication, which is the right message to the right audience at the right time. And in this particular case, we found that we had a lot of dropout of female candidates in the Met Police's process. And through a little bit of research, we found out why. In fact, the Met found out why females were dropping out. They were a bit anxious about the next stage of the process, the assessment center and what it involved. There was a fitness test, and it was particularly affecting female candidates. And a lot of them were dropping out ahead of time. And what we did was we automated that when they get invited, there's also a little video that it kind of explains to them what the assessment center is all about. And as a result of kind of automating the sort of right communication at the right time to the right audience, we got a 40% increase in the female who participated at the assessment center. So isn't that a wonderful story and very simple? So, I mean, if we think about our biggest challenges per our kind of survey at the front in this scarcity of talent and scarcity of diverse talent, you know, talent rediscovery, and this is something kind of actually we're working quite actively with quite a lot of our clients at the moment. And this is, it's an absolute kind of no-brainer and a real kind of win-win in every sense. You've got candidates who've applied to you, but are you making it as easy as possible that you optimize that use of candidates? And so the best ways that our clients have found to do that is obviously, first of all, we want to sort of use our CRM to continue to nurture and talk to people who are in the platform. We use these talent pools and we kind of add candidates, you know, to these talent pools automatically. And then when you raise a new job, the search and match functionality immediately, you know, searches the existing candidates in your database and matches them to the jobs that are suitable. So in this way, the thing I really like about this is we're not getting more candidates, so we're not creating more work. What we're doing is using the candidates we've got more efficiently. So you should get more hires from the same pool of candidates. And so no more work, but more hires. Well, that's a lovely idea, isn't it? So that would be a kind of a hearty recommendation. And then let's move a little bit on to screening and selection. I don't know how many of you have implemented either name blinding or blinding of other pieces of information, or a little bit more sophisticatedly, what we call halo-less screening. There's a thing called a halo, which I definitely don't have, which is kind of a positive, or even it could be a first impression bias. I think it's a similar thing, where your initial perception of a candidate unfortunately colors your subsequent perception of a candidate. And so we can use our platform to actually chunk up the way you look at candidates. So you look at all of certain characteristics of candidates at once, all your candidate pool, and then you move on to the next characteristic and look at them. So you look at them all together. It's a much fairer and a better way of looking at them. What we found, we did a study on one of our clients, and we found that 70% of their of how they perceived a candidate was determined by the first answer a candidate gave to the first question, which obviously, you know, is not a good way of selecting candidates. The other thing, obviously, is about structuring and using automated selection tools like psychometric testing or intelligent automation. And so a couple of examples of intelligent automation that our clients use. This one is being used by one of our investment banking clients. And when you look at a list of candidates, it's sort of recommending who you should interview. And per my previous comment, you know, it's recommending, but obviously, ultimately, it's up to you to decide. But what it does is it, in the background, it learns your selection criteria based on who you have selected for particular roles in the past. It looks at those candidates, looks at the data around them, understands what factors you are using in selecting candidates for interview. But it also works out real time in its kind of, it does a brain, and it works out the diversity impact, diversity correlation of those different things. And it balances those criteria so that you get both great talent, but also diverse candidates. And in this particular case study with the bank, not only was it a big time saver, it was like 35% of time saving, but also the recommendations of the platform were leading to a 24% improvement in the diversity. The next one is something I absolutely love. We call it intelligent assessment, which is probably a bit of a misnomer. I love it because it's incredibly futuristic in what it does, and incredibly clever, and what's the word? Incredibly impactful. So can you imagine at all that basically, I switched my phone off, but it's now buzzing at me. That recommends candidates based on their experience and behaviors. So it understands the response to questions like, drawing on your past experience, can you demonstrate how you've achieved effective teamwork? So it literally reads the text answers to these types of questions, and it looks for behavioral indicators in those answers. So it's really, what's the word? It's explainable, and it follows kind of good practice in terms of how you should select someone on experience. And it turns out, and we've kind of looked at it over millions and millions of questions of this type, that it is both more accurate, more reliable, and it boosts diversity as well, because we found that recruiters, again, have this unconscious bias because they don't necessarily know the diversity of the candidates that they're looking at these sorts of answers for, but they seem to be having adverse impact, and we found that the tool removed that adverse impact. So there's a kind of couple of ways you could do that. Now, I love answering this question. This is by a study from a professor called Todorov at Princeton University. And we haven't got a poll, but you can go to your chat and you can answer the question, which is, you go to a party, you're standing at the door, you're, for once, or at least in my case, for once you've arrived vaguely early because you're the third person to arrive. Never does it happen. And there's two people in the room. And you think, oh my goodness, I'm a bit anxious at parties, but I want to go and talk to someone. Do you talk to the person on the left, or do you talk to the person on the right? Well, I normally ask this question in front of an audience, and I've never had anyone put their hand up saying, but I would be interested to see the chat, and you're going to prove me wrong, I'm sure. But they put their hand up for the person on the right. The vast majority of people would like to approach the person on the left. This is an example of first impression bias. And I've got another little a video that I love that is from somebody else's experience. And this is based on, this is a little video of Google's Director of People Analytics. And he is going to explain why structure is really important. Now, the research study he's talking about is, it's been set up that you're being asked to select a police chief. And the resumes you're reviewing, they've been written in such a way that they either display street smarts or school smarts. And then they also either have male or female names. So let's see what happens in the study.
Guess what? They preferred the resume with a male name on it over the one with a female name on it. And when asked what is going on here, they said, well, though she had a lot of street smarts, we really prefer somebody with school smarts. Or they said, though she had a lot of school smarts, we really prefer someone with street smarts for the role. So the subjects seriously thought that they were attending to the information on the resume, unaware that they were influenced by the gender of the applicant. And so the researchers did a third study. Before you saw any resume whatsoever, you had to say, what is more important to you? And people said, well, school smarts are as important. They sent the resume, or gave them the resumes with the person's name on it, no more gender bias. If you actually articulate that school smarts is important to you, they then overlooked the gender of the candidate and made unbiased decisions. So what is the lesson for us? The lesson is that we have to articulate our expectations for the roles that we're filling, and that's really.
So isn't that a wonderful just 2-minute clip? You can find it on YouTube. if you look under Google Ventures, I mean, it's part of a, I don't know, an hour lecture by this gentleman, but isn't it a wonderful explanation of why it's so important that we structure our selection criteria and that we do it up front? Which is the reason I showed it was just we're sort of getting to the interview stage in the things that some of our clients are doing, and wanted to talk to you about how you remove unconscious bias. I've got a wonderful slide that I'm not going to share with you today, but if anyone's interested, there are 188 human biases that we need to counteract. But wasn't it fascinating how, you know, people thought they were making the right decisions, but somehow they were, you know, the name of the candidate, whether it was male or female, for a police chief, we felt that it should be a man. But in terms of how to avoid this, its structure is kind of really, really important. You know, having multiple people interview the candidates, you know, grading the candidates based on how they meet essential skills, which are predetermined, you know, and structuring the interviews, you know, in the same way each time. Just we're sort of getting to the close of the sort of case study, and we'll get on to some questions if you have some. But you know, just kind of finally, in terms of decision offer, you know, make sure that, you know, your hiring is, you know, informed by the data, that you're making data-driven decisions, you're ignoring your gut feeling. Gut feeling, you know, good example of gut feeling was you wanted to go and your gut feeling was you wanted to talk to the person on the left side rather than the person on the right side. You know, and then obviously, you know, conduct fair reference checks. Post-hire analysis. Again, you know, it's really important to have great reporting. If you're not measuring it, obviously you can't improve it. These are just some examples, some dashboards we have, but it's better to show it actually in the context of another case study. Pretty much all the police forces actually in the country use our D&I insights or reporting tools. And they use them both individually as an individual force to identify where minority candidates are, you know, withdrawing, and they implement changes to their process. They use it to analyze demographic data at each stage, and then they share best practice from the different forces in order to attract, you know, diverse talent. And if you're interested, again, do contact me later. We've actually got a roundtable coming up in the next couple of weeks where we're getting loads of people together to talk about some of these issues. If you send me a message, we can see if we can get you invited. And so I think a quick poll. I think there's only one or two more slides after this, but a quick poll about your own diversity reporting. How happy are you with your ability to track your diversity? Because obviously that's a good place to start if you want to improve it.
Again, I'll just leave it on for 30 seconds or so for you. So I always get the benefit of seeing the bars go up and down as people are voting, which is always quite interesting. But hosts' rights, I think. Okay. Still a couple more coming through. Should be able to see the results there.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm surprised about that. And I thought we'd have more satisfied people. Well, it's not, it's, yeah. Definitely happy to take questions. We've got people on our team who basically pretty much spend all their time doing diversity stats. So again, sure, somebody on the team who can help. So do ask me questions. It's just a final, I think, case study. So this was a kind of an extreme case of automation with a massive impact also on diversity. So during lockdown, I think when loads and loads of people were furloughed, the job centres decided that they needed to hire another 13,500 work coaches. And the first 4,500 were to be recruited in 7 weeks. It's kind of baffling, isn't it? I mean, we are 120 people. Imagine hiring however many, an organization or two in 7 weeks. Anyhow, they configured our platform to make a very automated process in terms of tests, asynchronous video interviews, and they estimate they saved something like 200,000 hours. As you can see, it was a 40% reduction in hiring costs. They doubled, was a 50% increase in the candidates from Black and ethnic minorities. And they did indeed hire the coaches in time. The 200,000 hours were saving not just in the screening, but it was also some of the activities around. Just the onboarding activities alone. We have a client, I think, that had literally hundreds and hundreds of people doing onboarding. And they now have a team of, I think, 80 people who do the onboarding. You can see it's a big client. I mean, that's probably a 50% reduction already just from automation, the onboarding tasks. And now they're, I think, trying to drive it down to 40 through kind of additional automation. So there's always additional things you can do, which I just thought was also kind of interesting to touch on, something that I'm sure many of you are probably dealing with at the moment. So the campaign we did with the DWP was pre this new type of automation that's recently been added to the platform, which is also in response to a change in the government regulations. So I don't know if you knew that previously you could use the temporary COVID adjusted method for right to work guidance, and you could, I think, see a copy of people's documents and confirm their identity over video call. And you're no longer allowed to do that. So one of the things, you've either got to do a manual check, as in a kind of, I think, a face-to-face check, or you can now do a digital check. So one of the things that we've recently integrated into the platform is a way of actually doing digital automated identity checks, which I'm sure if DWP were running their campaign again, they would be delighted about, because again, I'm sure it would save them a lot of time. A quick notes, the inclusive job adverts, which many of you seem to be doing, encourage engagement, delivering the right message at the right time. We talked about using the existing talent pool you've got, the people who are applying already, to maximize your number of hires without increasing the amount of work. We talked a bit about removing bias through automation and blinding and structure and multiple interviewers. And then I think in the end, we talked a little bit also just about having good diversity reporting, but more generally, making sure that we were data-driven in our approach.